Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to be talking to you about gun control. I'm going to be mainly focusing on a recent article that was published in the JAMA or JAMA Internal Medicine. I'll have a link down below. It was done by Dr. Fliegler from the Boston's Children's Hospital, and it was just published on March 6th. It was done over 4 years from 2007 through 2010, and it looked at the firearm deaths that were reported to the Centers for Disease Control reporting system. It also used state-level firearm legislation across 5 categories of laws to create a legislative strength score and measure the association of that score with the number of deaths per 100,000 people for each state. And the 5 categories for the laws are the curbing firearm trafficking, the strengthened background checks, improving child safety, banning military-style assault weapons, and restricting guns in public places. Now, this study was funded by the Joyce Foundation, which is a charity in Chicago that supports many different things, including anti-gun groups, so it might be a little bit biased on the way they portray the results. So just keep that in mind. It found that firearm fatalities are stable at a little over 31,000 a year, of which about 20,000 are suicides and 11 to 12,000 are homicides, which is about 60 and 40%. It found that for every 100,000 people, Louisiana had the highest with 17.9 deaths, and Hawaii had the lowest with 2.9 deaths per 100,000 people. And this study actually found that there was a relation between firearm laws and firearm deaths. But I was a little bit skeptical that they included suicides in that number, because I think that if somebody really wants to commit suicide, they would do it whether they had a firearm or not. So I took away just the deaths from homicide, and I ranked the states from 1 to 50. And I compared the average legislative strength for each of those based on what the study had, and I found that there was really less of a strong relation between the legislative strength and the amount of suicides per 100,000 people. For instance, Utah, which had the least strength of legislation on firearm control, with a .5 rating, it was actually the 6th safest state with only 1.1 homicides per 100,000 people, and it was ahead of Massachusetts, which was the highest in legislative strength for firearm control. So then I separated the states into quartiles: the least homicides per 100,000, the second least, the second most, and the most. And I averaged up their legislative scores, and for the safest quartile of states, their average legislature score was 7.33, which actually was less than the second safest at 8.083, and the third safest at an average legislative score of 6.458. And the most dangerous was 5.364. So those are all really close, and the legislative scores go from 0 being the least laws on gun control to up to 24, which is the most. So the safest quartile of states actually had less laws governing gun control than the next safest quartile, which I thought was pretty interesting and shows that really it's not all about gun control. And so the study actually controlled for age, sex, race, poverty, unemployment, college education, population density. But I think maybe other causes could also have effect on the amount of homicides. For instance, happiness. The more happy people are, the less they'll be inclined to violence and whatnot. Also, maybe mental health facilities. The more care and attention that goes into solving mental health issues, there'll probably be less of these violence, like what happened in Newtown, and other factors like those. I think will have an effect on the amount of gun violence. But besides just like banning assault weapons, I think other less extreme forms of gun control could be helpful. For example, in California, the state I'm from, a weapon's considered an assault weapon if it has like a detachable magazine and some other things. So lots of weapons, you need a tool that's not attached to the weapon to be used to remove the magazine. I think that could be helpful, so that the bad guys can't reload really quickly and kill more people. I also think that magazine size should be limited, because it's kind of ridiculous to just have somebody with a 100-round beta mag going around in a mall and shooting people. That'll also limit the deaths in situations like those. Definitely more background checks to check the mental health and whatnot of people who want these guns. And I think waiting periods for buying these guns will also be helpful, because somebody could just be having a really bad day and maybe get a gun or something and just go out and shoot people. I think waiting periods might help alleviate some of those problems. But mainly I think that we should be focusing on societal issues instead of just gun control, like fixing poverty, fixing racism, fixing all these kinds of hatreds. Those are really the issues behind these acts of violence. People would kill people even if there weren't guns, and those are like the actual issues. Just all the hatred that's saturating today's society. It's just ridiculous. So I think if we focus more on the economy and fighting poverty and just that kind of stuff, then we'll be better off than if we just attacked guns like lawmakers are trying to do right now. So that was my talk on gun control. If you disagree or if you have something to add, feel free to leave a comment. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends. Yep. See you later. Don't hate.